Hello, I study English and I always study every day. Maybe after 1 year I speak English well and can you come with me? Okay, today I reading a book 1 hour. Okay, let's start. Today I read a book Alicia's Adventure in Wonderland. Baby Fall went straight on like a tunnel for some way, and then dipped something down. So the Alice had not moment to think about stopping herself before she found herself falling down a very deep well. Either the wall was very deep, or she fell very slowly, but she had plenty of time as she went down to look about her and to wonder what was going to happen next. First, she tried to look down and make out what she was coming to, but it was too dark to see anything. Then she looked at the sides of the well and noticed that they were filled with cupboards and bookshelves. Here and there, she saw maps and pictures hung upon pegs. She took down a jar from one of the shelves as she passed. It was labeled orange marmalade, but to her great disappointment, it was empty. She didn't like to drop the jar for fear of killing somebody underneath, so managed to put it into one of the cupboards as she felt vested. Well, thought Alice to herself. After such a fall as this, I shall think nothing of tumbling downstairs. How brave they'll all think me at home. Why, I wouldn't say anything over it, even if I fell off the top of the house. Down, down, down. The fall never comes to the end. I wonder how many miles I've fell in by this time, she said aloud. I must be getting somewhere near the center of the earth. Let me see. That would be 4,000 miles down, I think. For you see, Alice had learned several things of the sort in her residence in the schoolroom. And though this was not a very good opportunity to showing off her knowledge, as there was no one to listen to her, still it was good practice to say it over. Yes, that's about the right distance. But then I wonder what latitude or longitude I've got to. I had no idea that latitude was or longitude either, but thought they were nice grand words to say. Presently she began again. I wonder if I shall fall like through the earth. It is shame to come out among the people that work with their heads downward. The antipath, I think, she was rather glad there was no one listening this time, and it didn't sound at all the right word. But I shall have to ask them what the name of the country is. Please, ma'am, is this New Zealand or Australia? And she tried to curtsy as she spoke. Fancy cows dancing as you are falling through the air. Do you think we could manage it? And was an ignored little girl. She'll thank me for asking. No, it never to ask. Perhaps I shall see it written up somewhere. Down, down, down. There was nothing else to do. So Alison began talking again. Denial miss me very much tonight. I should think Tina was the cat. Ah, okay. I hope they'll remember her source of milk at the time. Tina, my dear, I wish you were down here with me. There are no mice in the air. I'm afraid Funny might catch a bat, and that's very like a mouse, you know. But do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats, I wonder? And here else began to get a little sleepy and went on saying to herself in dreamy sort of way, "Do cats eat cats? Do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? Do cats eat bats? And sometimes do bats eat cats?" But you see, and she could answer it question. It didn't much matter which way she put it. She felt that she was dozing off and had just begun to dream that she was walking hand in hand with Dina and saying to her very earnestly, "Now, Dina, tell me the truth. Did you ever eat a bat?" When someone thump thump, then she came upon a heap of stick and dry leaves, and the fall was over. Alice was not a bit hurt. Alice was not a bit hurt, and she jumped up onto her feet in a moment. She looked up, but it was all dark overhead. Before her was another long passage, and the white rabbit was still inside, hurrying down it. There was not a moment to be lost. Away went Alice like the wind, and was just in time to hear it say, "It turns color on my ears and wrinkles. How red it's getting." Alice's Adventure in Wonderland is too hard to me, so I have to change the books. Okay. I read the book. The title is The Life and Adventure of Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. Chapter 1, Starting Life. I was born in year 1632 in the city of New York, of a good family, though not of that country. My father being a foreigner of Bremen, who settled first at Hull. He got a good estate by merchandise and the living of his trade. Lived afterward York, from whence he had met my mother, whose relation was named Robinson, a very good family in that country, and from whom I was called Robinson Crueso. But by the usual corrupt word in England, we are not called they. We call ourselves by our name Crusoe, and so my companions always call me. I have two elder brother, one of whom was lieutenant colonel to an English regiment afoot in Philander, formerly commanded by the famous Colonel Lockhart, and was killed at the battle near Dunkirk against the Spaniards. What became of my second brother I never knew, any more than my father or mother knew that what became of me. What became of my second brother? A third son of family and not bred to trade. My head began to be filled with lambling thought. My father was very ancient and gave me a competent share of learning as far as house, education and country free school generally go, and desired me for the law. But I would be satisfied with nothing but going to sea. I would be satisfied with nothing but going to sea, and my inclination to this is to me so strong against the will, nay, the commands of my father, and against all the entreaties and persuasions, entreaties and persuasions of mother and other friends. There seems to be something fatal in the propensity of nature, tending directly to life of misery, which was to be for me. My father, a wise and great man, gave me serious and excellent counsel against what he foresaw was my design. What was my design? He called me one morning into his chamber, where he was confined by God, and exposed to related very warmly with me upon this subject. He asked me what are visions, more than a mere wandering inclination. He asked me one religious I had for leaving father's house and my native country, where I might be well introduced, and had the prospect of raising my fortune by application in industry with a life of ease and pleasure. He told me it was meant of desperate fortune on one hand, or of aspiring superior fortune on the other, who went upward upon adventure to rise by enterprise and make themselves famous in undertaking of nature out common road. That these things were all either too far above me or too far below me. That mine was middle state, or what might be called the upper station of low life. Which he had found by own experience, which he had found was the best state in the world, the most suited to human happiness, and exposed to the miseries and hardship, the labor and suffering of mechanic part of mankind, and then embraced with a pride, luxury, ambition and envy of the poor part of mankind. He told me I might judge of the happiness of the state by this one thing, peace. That this was the state of life which all other people envied. That kings have frequently lamented the miserable consequences of being born to great things, and which they have been placed in the middle of two extremes, between the mean and the great. That the wise man gave his testimony to this as the standard of felicity when he tried to have neither poverty nor rich. Romance. He bade me observe it, and I should always find that the calamities, calamities of life were shared among the upper and lower part of mankind, but the middle station had the fewest disaster, and was exposed to so much she should choose as a higher or lower part of mankind. Nay, observe it. Let me observe it. They are subjected so many distempers and uneasiness, either of body or mind, and those who, by vicious living, luxury, and extravagance on the one hand, or by hard labor, wantonness, toys, and mean or insufficient diet on the other hand, bring distemper upon themselves by the natural consequences of their way of living. That the middle station of life was calculated for all kinds of virtue and all kinds of enjoyment. That peace and plenty were the handmaids of the middle fortune. That temperance, moderation, quietness, health, society, or agreeable diversion, and or desirable pleasure were the blessing attending the middle station of life. That this way Men went lightly and smoothly through the war and comfortably out of it, that embraced with the labors of the hands or of the head, not sold to a life of daily for daily bread, nor harassed with perplexed circumstance which robbed the soul of the peace and the body of rest, nor enraged with the passion of envy or the secret burning lust of ambition for great things, but in each circumstance sliding gently through the world and sensible tasting the sweets of living without the bitter, feel that they are happy and running. They are happy and learning by everyday's experience to know it more sensibly. After this, he pressed me earnestly. Pressed me earnestly, and it was the most affectionate manner, not to play the young man, nor to precipitate myself into misery with which nature, station like which Rachel seemed to have provided against. Then I was under no necessity of seeking my bread, that he would do well for me, and endeavor to enter me fairly into a station of life which he had just been commending to me, and that if I was not very and happy in the world, it must be my mere fate or fault that must hinder it, and that he should have nothing to answer for, having thus discharged his duty in warning me against measures which he knew would be to my hurt. In a word, that as he ought to bear a kind thing for me if I would stay and settle at home as he instructed, so he ought not have so much hand in my misfortunes as to give me any encouragement to go away. And to cross all, he told me I had my elder brother for an example, to whom he had used the same earnest persuasion to keep him from going into low course country war, but could not prevail, his young desire prompting him to run into the army, where he was killed. And though he said he would not cease to pray for me, yet he would venture to say to me that if I did take this foolish step, God would not bless me, and I should have leisure hereafter to reflect upon having neglected his counsel, when there might be none to assist in my recovery. I observed in this last part of his discourse, which was truly prophetic, though I suppose my father did not know it to be so himself. I observed the tears run down his face very plentifully, especially when he spoke of my brother who was killed, and that when he spoke of my having rather to repent and none to assist me, he was so moved that he broke off the discourse and told me his heart was so full he could say no more to me. When he spoke of my having rather to repent, I had rather to repent. I was instantly affected with this discourse, and indeed who could be otherwise? And I resolved not to think of going abroad and more, but to settle at home, according to my father's desire. But alas, a few days wore off, and in short, to prevent any of my father's further importunities, in a few weeks after I resolved to run quite away from him. However, I didn't. It's too hard to me too. So I had to change the book. Check in YouTube. Join the book.
Well, I recommend that you do both. Hello, this is Jack from tofluency.com. Thank you so much for being here today. Now, in this lesson, you're going to learn all about books and how you can improve your English through reading. I have a very powerful method to share with you. And at the end, I need your feedback. But first, let's talk about a problem that many of you face when it comes to reading in English. The problem is this. When you are reading and you see a word that you don't understand, should you stop reading and look at the definition of this word, or should you just continue? When you stop and look up new words or you analyze the language, this is called intensive reading. Intensive reading. So you focus on the language and you stop when you need to learn something new. Extensive reading is when you don't stop and you just read for pleasure. You're reading to enjoy the book. We're going to talk about which one is best soon. But first, let's discuss what type of books you should be reading. There are 3 things to consider when choosing a book: the genre, the level of the book, and how enjoyable it is. The genre means the category. So when you go to the library or a bookstore, you'll notice that books are categorized into different sections. Things like novels, history, science, etc. So if you love novels, then consider getting a novel. If you are studying business English, then get books based on business English. This is important to say because I find that a lot of learners feel like they have to read a certain type of book. But it's important to know that everyone is different, and the book that is right for you might not be right for someone else. The level of the book is key too. If it is too difficult to understand, then it won't be useful. If you have to stop at every sentence and look up a new word, then you're not going to enjoy reading the book. A great solution here, and I've mentioned this many times, is to look at graded readers. And these are books that are specifically adapted for English learners to make them easier to understand. They also tend to use everyday English, which is good because This is the type of English used in everyday life.
Yeah.
Finally, find a book that you are going to enjoy. And if you start reading a book and you're not enjoying it, put it down and find a different one instead. We want to enjoy reading because then we'll read more. Here is a great way that you can find books that you're going to enjoy before buying them. Now, go to Amazon.com to do this. And I've just chosen this book. I searched for history books and found this one. And you can see it says, look inside. And if you click on it, you can actually start reading it. And this is a way for you to know if the book is going to be good for you or not. So let's just go to the introduction. The man was seated at a desk in a windowless basement office. 2 aides had just left the room. I was now alone with a new US Senator from Illinois. It was January the 5th, 2005. And you can continue reading this to see if this book is going to help you and if you think it's going to be interesting. So before you choose a book, be sure to read a few pages first. A bonus tip is to find books with audio versions too. As you know, English isn't a phonetic language, which means that you can't infer how a word sounds by reading it. So getting an audiobook will help you greatly. And it also means that you can go from reading a book to listening to a book or doing both at the same time. Okay, once you have found your book, now it's time to start reading. And let's go back to whether intensive or extensive reading is better. As a recap, intensive reading is when you focus on the language and look up new words, and extensive reading is when you continue reading for pleasure. Which ones should you focus on? Which one is better? Well, I recommend that you do both. And I recommend you do both in a smart way. Here is how. What I want you to do is this. Read extensively, but highlight any words that you don't understand while reading. Don't stop to look them up, but just highlight them for now. Do this for a chapter or a specific number of pages. And then once you have finished a chapter, go back and look up the highlighted words. This allows you to continue reading extensively, but you can then go back and look at these new words and phrases so that you can acquire new language. Here is a very key point about this method. Don't just highlight a single word, but instead highlight the whole sentence. And here is how to take it one step further. Take those sentences and create flashcards from them. I recommend using an app like Anki so that you can get smart repetition. And I've talked about this a lot in past lessons, and I'm going to talk about it more. And this is a method that I use in my program too. It's where you repeat a sentence today, then tomorrow, then in 2 days, 4 days, and 8 days, so that you can acquire this language over the long term. And once you have done this over 2 or 3 months, and you've gone through the entire book, what you can do next is go back and read it again. And you'll be amazed at how much more language you'll understand. And then you can read extensively and complete the entire book without stopping. So this is a reading method that will allow you to acquire vocabulary, learn grammar, and also read for pleasure. But now I need your help. In the comment section below, share books that you have found to be useful for learning English. Okay? Your book recommendations. And let us know if these books are best for beginners, intermediate speakers, or advanced learners. And I might feature some of these recommendations in a future video. Once you have left your recommendation, be sure to click over here and watch another one of my videos on this subject. If you've enjoyed this, then please share it, and thank you so much for being here. Hello, this is Jack from Fluency.com.
Therapy. Okay. I choose a book. Which title is The Tale of Peter Rabbit. Once upon a time, there were four little rabbits, and their name was Floppy, Moppy, Cottontail, and Peter. Telling with their mom sat back underneath the root of a very big fir tree. Now, my dears, said old Miss Rabbit one morning, you may go into the field or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McCoy's garden. Your father had an accident there. He had put in a pie. Now run on and don't get into mischief. I'm going out. Then old Miss Rabbit took a basket and her umbrella and went through the wood to the baker's. She bought a loaf of brown bread and 5 corn buns. Flopsy, Mopsy, and Cottontail, who were good little bunnies, went down the lane to gather blackberry. But Peter was very naughty, went straight away to Miss Gregor's garden and skid under the gate. For he ate some lettuce and French beans, and then he ate some radishes, and then feeling restless, he went to look for some parsley. But on the end of cucumber flame, who should he meet but Mr. McGregor? Mr. McGregor was on his hand, and he flatting out young cabbages, but he jumped and ran after Peter, waving a rake and calling out, "Stop thief!" Peter was most dreadfully frightened. He rushed all over the garden, for he had forgotten the way back to the gate. He rose one of his shoes of cabbages and the other shoe amongst the potatoes. After losing them, he ran on 4 legs and went faster, so that I think he might have got away altogether if he had not unfortunately run into a gooseberry net, then got caught by the large button of his jacket. It was blood jacket with brass button, quite new. Bill gave himself up for lost and shed big tears, but his sob was overheard by some friendly sparrows who flew to him in great excitement and implored him to exert himself. Mr. McGraw came up with a seat which he intended to pop upon the top of Peter, but Peter wriggled out just in time, leaving his jacket behind him, and rushed into the tool shed and jumped in the can. It would have been a beautiful thing to hide in if it had not had so much water in it. Miss McGregor was quite sure that Peter was somewhere in the tool shed, perhaps hidden underneath a floor pot. He began to turn them over carefully, looking under each. Presently, Peter sneezed. Curtis Chew. Mr. McGraw was after him in no time, and tried to put his foot upon Peter, who jumped out the window, upsetting 3 plants. The window was too small for McGraw, and he was tired of running after Peter. He went back to his work. Peter sat down to rest. He was out of breath and trembling with fright, and he had not the least idea which way to go. Also, he was very damp with sitting in the can. After a time, he began to wonder about going lippity, not very fast, and looking all around. He found a door in a wall, but it was locked, and there was no room for a fat little rabbit to skate underneath. An old mouse was running in and out over the stone doorstep, carrying peas and beans to her family in the wood. Peter asked her the way to the gate, but she had such a large pea in her mouth that she could not answer. She only shook her head at him. Peter began to cry. Then he tried to find his way straight across the garden, but he became more and more puzzled. Presently, he came to a pond where Miss McGraw filled his water cans. A white cat was staring at some goldfish. She sat very still, but now and then the tip of her tail twitched as if it were alive. Peter thought it best to go away without speaking to her. He had heard about cat from his cousin, little Benjamin Bunny. He went back towards the tool shed, but suddenly quite close to him, he heard the noise of a hoe. Scratch. Peter was curled underneath the bushes. But presently, as nothing happened, he came out and climbed upon a wheelbarrow and picked up the first thing he saw was Miss Macro hauling on him. His back was turned towards Peter, and beyond him was a gate. Peter got down very quickly off the wheelbarrow and started running as fast as he could go. Along a straight walk, behind some black currant bushes, Miss Macro caught sight of him at the corner, but Peter did not care. He sat underneath the gate and was safe at last in the wood outside the garden. Miss Macro hung up a little jacket and the shoes for Scarecrow to fight the blackbird. Peter never stopped running or looked behind him till he got home to the big fir tree. He was so tired that he plopped down upon the nice soft sand on the floor of the rabbit hole and shut his eye. His mother was busy cooking. She wondered what he had done with his cross. It was the second little jacket and pair of shoes that Peter had lost in a fortnight. I'm sorry to say that Peter was not very well during the evening. His mother put him to bed and made some chamomile tea, and she gave a dose of it to Peter, 1 tablespoonful to be taken to bed. But Blosby, Moppy, and Cottontail had bread and milk and blackberry for supper. The old edition. Okay. Yeah. Once upon a time, a little rabbit and their neighbor is a little more and bow a little factory. What type of evergreen coffee? Coniferous tree. No, my dear. No, wrong. Don't get the mischief. Don't get the mischief right now. No. Don't get into mischief. I don't want to be somewhere to get into trouble. Don't do anything nasty. Bad behavior, naughty. Mischief. Flip measure with people. Mischief. Peter was very naughty. The ace and lactose and protein cucumber frame, but run to the end of comfort frame. Whom should he meet but miss him? Said the Smith, just as he went around the corner of a garden structure. He unexpectedly went to miss chorus. Was on his end and his fighting a young cavity, but he jumped out the lecture. Tapped up to translate right to pulled him to exert himself. Implored him to exert himself, begged him to try his absolute best. Fighting implored the best of